Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here for our panel discussion titled When Excellence Hurts Academic Pressure and Mental Health. My name is Nur Arina Hani binti Aminon, and I will be moderating this session. Today's discussion focuses on something many of us experience but often struggle to talk about: academic stress. Academic stress can be defined as the emotional, mental, and physical strain that comes from educational demands and expectations. This pressure may stem from exams, assignments, time management, high personal expectations, or even comparisons with others. It is easy to think this is just part of student life, but research shows that it goes much deeper. According to a 2024 article titled The Impact of Educational Stress on Adolescent Mental Health and Solutions, only 16% of students reported a decrease in stress in the past year. On the other hand, 30% said their stress levels had grown, and even higher percentage, which is 34%, anticipated more stress in the year ahead. The same article highlights that educational pressure comes from a wide range of sources: exam anxiety, homework overload, fear of negative evaluation, and dissatisfaction with self-performance. This is not just about grades, it's about how constant stress can quietly harm our emotional well-being, physical health, and self-worth, especially among students in higher education. With that, let's begin our conversation with two very insightful guests who bring both professional and practical perspectives. Our first panelist is Nur Atina binti Zainal Abidin, a licensed psychologist specializing in youth and academic mental health. And our second panelist is Ruciita, anak perempuan Selvamani, an experienced counselor who works closely with university students facing emotional and academic challenges. We will go through our 4 rounds of questions, alternating between our panelists. Let's begin.
Assalamualaikum and good evening to our moderator Nur Arina and panel 2 Ruciita. My name is Nur Atina binti Zainal Abidin and I am a psychologist from the Mindful Center, Kuala Lumpur. And today for the panel discussion, I'll be the panel 1.
A very good day to my moderator Nur Arina Hani and my panelist Nur Atina. I'm the counselor from the bridging side and my name is Ruciita, anak perempuan Selvamani. So in today's panel discussions, I'll be the panelist too.
Okay, Dr. Atina, here is the first question for you. What are some hidden or overlooked ways academic pressure affects students emotionally and physically?
Thank you, Arina, again for the question. Okay, so what advice would I give to the students who feel guilty when they're not studying or performing perfectly? So the first thing that I would do is I reassure them that this guilt is incredibly common, but not always helpful. What the research highlights is that problem-focused coping, like planning or seeking help, leads to much healthier outcomes than pushing through guilt with avoidance or overworking. You know, guilt often comes from comparing ourselves to an ideal of perfect productivity, which is not realistic. And I would advise them to focus instead on self-awareness. Knowing your limits and recognizing when rest is necessary is part of effective coping, not failure. And also having support system, whether it's friends, mentors, or counseling services, can really help to shift that mindset. Because you're not alone in this, and talking it out can reframe guilt into something more constructive, like motivation guided by self-care. And lastly, link your actions to well-being. A rested mind performs better, and sustainable progress is more important than short bursts of perfection. That's all from me. Thank you very much.
The second question is, what mental health challenges do students often face that we tend to overlook? This question is for Miss Ruciita.
Alright, thank you so much, Arina, for the insightful question. So, to answer your questions, I would like to highlight the couple of mental health challenges that are often overlooked based on these articles that caught my eye, which titled The Understanding of the Impact of the Academic Pressure on Student Mental Health, which was written by the Cambridge Tally and published on 2014. So, firstly, one major challenge is the burnout of the unrealistic high expectation, whether from it's our family, society, or even ourselves. So, when students feel like they must achieve a perfect grade or to be on the top of the class all the time, it creates a chronic stress, anxiety, and in many cases, feeling of worthlessness when they fall short. So, Telly also emphasizes that this pressure can severely disrupt a student's emotional well being, leading to burnout, self doubt, and in many cases, the extreme cases, it can also cause depression. And another significant but often overlooked challenge is the fear of failure and the impact on self worth. Many students tie their identity and their value to the academic achievements. So, when they struggle to face a setbacks, it can deeply affect their self esteem and motivation. The fear often results in avoidance behavior, procrastinations, or withdrawal, which further harm their mental health and also academic performance. These silent struggles often go unnoticed because students continue to show up to class, submit assignments, meet deadlines, but internally they are battling intense emotional pressure. So, addressing students' mental health isn't just about offering resources. So, we should also be able to changing the culture of the unrealistic standards and helping students to feel safe to fail, grow, and ask for help. That's all for me. That's my answer for your questions. Thank you.
Back to Dr. Atina. What advice would you give to students who feel guilty when they are not studying or performing perfectly?
Thank you, Arina, for the question. So, my answer for the first question is academic pressure often causes more than just stress over deadlines or grades. Emotionally, many students experience chronic guilt, anxiety, and even self doubt, especially when they feel like they are not performing perfectly. And what's often overlooked is how these emotional struggles affect students physically. For example, sleep disturbances, fatigue, or even weakened immune response from the long-term stress. And from the articles I reviewed, especially the one on Vietnamese medical students, it was found that emotion-focused coping, such as avoidance or distraction, tends to worsen these effects. When students don't know how to manage pressure healthily, it builds up internally. And this emotional overload can show up as muscle tension, headaches, or even loss of appetite, things that are often dismissed or misattributed. And it is also important to highlight how cultural expectation and financial pressure, especially in our context, silently add to that burden, intensifying both emotional and physical toll.
To Ms. Ruciita, what small habits or coping strategies can students use to protect their mental health during busy academic periods?
Alright, thank you so much, Arina, for the most thoughtful question. It's actually a relevant one, especially during our week 13 where the academic stress is just on the peak. So, to answer your questions, I would like to highlight a few points which was written by Funte on the article titled Effects of Level of Self-Regulations and Regulatory Teaching on Strategies for Coping with the Academic Stress, especially among the undergraduate student. So, one of the points that he highlighted in the article is developing a self regulatory skills. So, this means taking a small but consistent actions like setting a realistic goals, planning tasks in advance, and reflecting on our personal progress. So, these habits actually help us to improve our academic performance, but and they can also reduce the anxiety and help students to feel more in control during the stressful times. So, another powerful but often underestimated habit is taking an intentional breaks for mental recovery. Even like a 10 minutes of walking, deep breathing, and just stepping away from the screen can make a big difference. So, Funti's findings suggest that students who use active and conscious coping strategies instead of emotional avoidance tend to experience a lower level of academic stress and greater psychological well being. So, in short, simple daily habits like goal setting, time management, and giving ourselves permission to rest can go a long way in protecting our mental health and sustaining motivation through busy academic periods. So that's all for me. I hope I answer your question.
Thank you to both of our panelists for those incredibly helpful and eye opening insights. We have heard today that academic stress is not just about being busy, it is about how expectations, pressure, and fear of failure can quietly affect our mental health, our motivation, and even our identity. But we have also heard something hopeful, that there are ways to cope, to reach out, and to protect our well being. I will end my part of today's talk with this reminder: mental health is not a weakness, it is part of who we are, and taking care of it is a strength. Thank you again for joining us. Bye.